Have you ever felt like you've been in the dark about something and you need someone to turn on the light? Or you feel like you've been asleep and you need waking up? Well, Paul addresses in chapter 4 and 5 of 1 Thessalonians this idea of being asleep in the Lord and being woken up when Christ returns. It's a nice way of thinking about death and resurrection. Paul writes to the Thessalonians about this topic in chapter 4, verse 13. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. There's a wonderful hope in that message, especially for those who have lost one who loved the Lord, but then they're no longer with them. This idea of being asleep and then awake is a beautiful representation of death and resurrection. And it also makes us think there's nothing in between. When you sleep, it's like a dream, but then when you wake up, the dreams soon fade away. Have you ever thought about death in that way? That when you are in the Lord, the hope of resurrection means it will be like switching on the lights. It will be like you're in darkness and now you're in light. The question is, I suppose, for us today is, do we remain in darkness, even with the light switched on? Are there things that we are in the darkness about, even though God has given us his truth in the Word? I have read many people saying they have no hope this day and age, and yet they ignore the hope that is offered. They live in darkness, they cry for a light, but they don't want the light switched on. We live in a world that is in darkness, but we have a Christ who brings light. In fact, in Ephesians 5, Paul writes, "Wake up, O sleeper, and rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." Well, that's actually to say that all will rise one day and face the judgment of Jesus Christ. His light will shine and everything will be made clear. The world will be drenched in the light of Christ. Nothing will be hidden. So why not get into that light right now? Why not look for those things in your life where you have questions, where you have darkness, and say, Lord, I want to expose this in the light and I want to deal with it. I don't want to fall asleep with darkness in my life. I want to fall asleep knowing I'm going to wake up in the light of Christ on that resurrection day. So how are we going to live? Are we going to live as those asleep in the world with no hope, or those awake with the hope of Christ and his light shining on the world?